Good morning, everybody. I have a special guest here today, a unique opportunity to share a story that I believe everybody's going to enjoy. Alex here is not a content creator. He's never published on YouTube. So I know it's going to be a little bit different, but this is a story I believe is one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard in my life. Alex, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I mean, I've really been looking forward to talking to you. I mean, I couldn't even sleep last night. I literally was up all night and just it's anxious, happy, and obviously a little nervous because some of the things I'm gonna share, I've never really shared with anybody. So
Yeah. Well, I want
kept it
everybody
to
to know that
myself.
we've been friends for, what would you say, like 25 years I've known you?
You've met me when I was about 9 years old,
Yeah.
and I'm 34, so it's been over 20 years.
20 years, man. Isn't that wild?
Man, let me tell you, like when I first met you, we automatically clicked. Like yeah, I didn't connect with too many people, and me and you, we had that bonding, and it grew into something very amazing. I mean, look at it now. This many years later, we still reached out to each other, and it's just like we never lost that friendship.
Yeah, and I'm glad we never did. I'll be honest with you, Alex. I remember when my parents were ready for me to come home, and you were like, "You can't leave, or I'm coming
Yeah,
with you." And I'm like, "Man, I can't. I gotta go on my own journey."
yeah. You're honestly, you're you're a brother that I never had,
Yeah,
and you're probably there was never a day that I always thought about you. You always crossed my mind, and I was never able to find you because your last name is just difficult to not just to spell to say.
yes,
So
actually, I was
it's
just talking to someone the other day, and they're like, "What's your name?" They thought my name was Regan Porno. I'm like, "No, no, 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 no,
yeah,
Regan Gorno." And now that I'm
yeah,
down south, the Spanish have a word that's very similar to it, and I'm like, "No, that's not what I'm trying to say here, guys. It's French. A bunch of the letters don't really matter." So yeah, if you're trying to look for me, Regan Gorno is not easy to find.
you know, and you know what? I'm trying to figure out how actually we were able to finally. I know you found me somehow.
Yeah. Well,
I found your sister, I believe, and through that somehow we ended up communicating.
yeah,
And even that, then we dropped off for a couple of years again, and then recently we've really been communicating.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think you had to go on your journey also, man. I think we needed to be
Yeah,
able to become the people we are now.
and I can honestly say, like the person I am now is probably the person I want to be. I guess I could start with just telling my story. So I was born in Russia, and I had a very rough upbringing, I guess you could say. At the age of 4, my father murdered my family, and I had a little sister and a mother. And you know what's sad is I don't even know their names, but I know I had a mother, and I think about her every day. And I I wish I knew her name. I remember what her eyes looked like because she died protecting me. I do remember her holding me while my father was attempting to stab me, and she was taking all the stabbings for me. So, and what's interesting is that day is we used to go down to a park by my house, and I specifically remember this because obviously a mother's never going to leave a child at a park. And that day, she left me and went home. So there was a lot of domestic violence in my house. There was a lot of abuse. And that day, I believe she knew something severe was going to happen. So she left me at the park, and I just sat there and waited, hoping she would come back. And eventually, I walked home. And when I walked in, it was already a bloody disaster. Um, I didn't know where she was. I didn't know my little sister was. I don't know how old. I know my sister was younger than me. I know she was a baby. Um, but eventually I heard noises in the kitchen. I ran into the kitchen, and that's where my mother was sitting at the table, kind of cornered, and my father was just standing there with a knife. And I kind of, for some reason, I had this, I guess, a protecting spirit come over me, and I went towards her and stood there in front of her. And that's when he started to stab me. So she grabbed me and put me under the table with her. And I remember just blood everywhere, just her taking it and covering me and trying to make sure I was okay. So um, I believe I ended up getting stabbed anywhere from 7 to 11 times. Um, she unfortunately passed away. I I was able to run into the other room where my baby little sister was, and my father ended up chasing me into there. And I kind of did what my mother did to my little sister. I remember crawling into bed and holding her, and he just continued. I mean, what is it for? And I believe she might have been two, maybe one and a half of them do. So I honestly don't know if I believe she died. I'm not 100% sure of that, but there was never proof that. But I know she was stabbed so many times. But I believe I would have heard if she lived, because when I was taken to the hospital and I ended up being in a coma for a little bit because of the severity of my stabs. I got stabbed in my eye, the most severe one, and ended up losing my vision. And I got a couple stabs to the back of my head, which people, if I, everybody can just see, they're very obvious. But I ended up being at the hospital, and I didn't really. I woke up after being in my coma, not really realizing what happened. I remember all these doctors around me and people, a bunch of people around me, and I probably had no idea what was going on. It's the memory I have of it is very vague, because it's more, the memory I have is flashbacks of that situation of me waking up. But eventually, my eye was removed by the time within the next couple of days, and it wasn't fully removed. I still had an eye. I don't know if you remember, it was kind of gray underneath the prosthesis that I had. Um, and I ended up going to an orphanage. So I never really found out if she lived or died. But what I found out later on is when my adopted parents, when I end that story later on, is they looked for her and they weren't able to find her. So, but that's also a weird situation, because at the age of about 5, I'd say about closer to 5 years old, I was actually kidnapped. And there was an organization, not a, you can't say organization, but a group of people in Russia that were kidnapping children from orphanages. And they were so good at it that they were able to get a passport. They were able to fly us to the United States and basically sell us to a family. But the selling happened before we even arrived. So I remember the parents that adopted me. Um, I remember them coming to Russia, meeting me, and we're to say now, there was an instant attraction to Michael, which is would have been the father. And I remember holding his leg and not letting go. And they were trying. We spoke through an interpreter, and the interpreter kept saying, "I wanted to leave with him, but they're like, you can't, you can't leave with him yet." And eventually, obviously, I was sold to them instead of it being an adoption. So I flew to the United States with these people on Christmas Day of 1996. is when I came to the United States. And the first two words I learned in English was pizza and bucks, because I love pizza and bucks was just money. So that, and what's weird is when I arrived to the United States, um, I didn't go straight home. The family went straight on a vacation to Colorado on a skiing trip. So that was, but I questioned myself if they knew that my adoption was a kidnapping, because there's flags that raised that they might have known, because I officially didn't become a citizen. I have this paper right here. It's a copy, you know, and it's of my certificate of citizenship. So this is officially when they say I became a U.S. citizen. But this is worthless because I've tried to use it and they said it doesn't mean nothing because it's a copy and it's horrible. But if I arrived to the States in December of 1996, how come I didn't become a citizen or officially become adopted to 2000? And it's just, my whole adoption thing is a mystery, because recently I found out that it might have not even went through. Obviously, something happened because I have a social security number, but I got that many years later. So what happened during that 4 years? And some of that 4 years is I was actually in Indianapolis, because you were there then. So
that's where our stories collide.
That's where I meet you. But I got sent. So I got sent to Indianapolis because I had a lot of, let's say, temper tantrum issues. I guess I didn't know how to accept love. I didn't know how to accept care. And the family that adopted me was, let's just say, wealthy. And coming from an orphanage and coming from nothing, to me going to a grocery store and they're saying you can have whatever you want. And I remember the first time I was at a grocery store, I was with one of my adopted sisters named Christy. And the funny part is, they're like, get whatever you want for yourself. And instead of doing that, I got fruit for everybody in the family. And when I got home and everybody got their fruit, I got nothing for myself. I was more worried about getting something for them to make sure they ate than making sure I had food. And it's the first time I was, like, even at a toy store. We went to I think it was called Toys. I think it's called Toy Store, or Toys R Us. It was a toy store for kids, and they let me pick out any toy I wanted, and it was just a shock. Being blessed like that, it was. I didn't know it was. I was scared of it, honestly. Like, yes, it was awesome, but from coming from having nothing to all of a sudden you have everything, it's weird. But so the reason I came to Indianapolis, I had temper tantrum. I had mental health issues. I had behavior issues. I was a very, very angry kid, and for my age, it took people. When I threw a temper tantrum, it took a couple adults to get a hold of me. And you know what's funny now is I had so much anger and violence back when I was younger that I don't get angry now. Um, Anger, let's just say, terrifies me, or anybody raising their voice, or any type of arguments, or it automatically locks me. They say the stay or flight scenario. I leave. I go. Um, and I find that very interesting because I wish I could get angry, but I'm scared to get angry now these days, because back then, if I got angry, it was so bad. You experienced some of my outbursts and how violent and physical I would get towards others and myself. But so that's the reason I arrived at Indianapolis. And the whole Indianapolis thing is I say it was the best part of my life, but it was also the worst. And it's more like the worst. But there were good memories. There were good things that came out of it, like you. You were probably one of the best. I was able to listen and calm down and actually like I would listen to you, but I wouldn't listen to nobody else. Um, and I think they realized that eventually, and I think they kind of forced. I know they forced you to leave, and they forced us apart. I believe after they put us together.
I don't know for sure if it was a forced thing. Um, my parents were willing for me to go to Russia, but my dad started his own business so me and him can grow together. And the whole point of him quitting his job so he can do construction was so him and his son can grow more together. So I don't know if Indianapolis had anything to really do with it than my dad giving up everything so me and him can work together. And we worked
Right.
together for
So,
10 years.
yeah. Well, the way they what I was told, and I don't think I ever told you, but what I was told is you did something that was against their rules, and you had to go. So that
Now,
they did tell me that. They said you did something that was not appropriate. They wouldn't say what it was. I don't remember what it was, but their rules are so small and petty.
yeah.
Like I would get in trouble for not memorizing scripture, and I wouldn't be able to eat a meal if I didn't memorize scripture. But that was kids. You were a young adult, so I don't know. They made me believe you did something bad and that you had to leave.
Hmm.
But I do remember, I when you left, I wanted to come with you.
Oh, I do remember that because my
that
parents came and they had dinner with us in the dining room with everybody else,
yeah,
and you were there with us because you were my dude, man. That was me and you.
it was us. And you know what? I I've only found one other person in my life, maybe one or two, that I could chill with 24/7, and we could get along. We would play Axis and Allies. We would play Risk. We would we had a vibe that was beyond what anybody could, I believe, could have. And I mean, you're a young adult and I'm a child,
Yeah.
and it was amazing. It was I consider you probably my honestly I consider you my first best friend.
That's awesome,
Like
Alex.
you were
I'll be
yeah
honest with you. I needed you just as much as you needed me. I was extremely immature when I was a teenager. Um, I was angry too. And when I
yeah
when I got there, I got in so much trouble. They asked my parents to come and get me a couple times. I don't know if you know this. There was a young man when I first got there who thought he'd tell me what to do, and I would just ignore him because I thought it was a joke. And
yeah.
he pulled out his trumpet one time, and I smashed his trumpet to about 1,000 pieces, man. And I went back to bed. I don't remember if they hogtied me or what they did, but they definitely restrained me because
Oh
I threatened to do things to him with that horn that he did not find
yeah.
amusing at all. And
Oh, and that's one that they were very one thing they were very good with their restraints. And boy, wait till you hear
yeah.
some
Because
of the restraint.
as far as I can remember, the entire time we were together was about a year,
Yeah,
and I only saw you get spanked once, and it was for lying. And I felt
yeah.
so bad, Alex. I felt so bad because Mr. Gergety looked me in the eyes and asked me a question, and I told him the truth, and I didn't know it was going to lead to you getting a whooping. And I had to stand there and watch it.
Oh, Jesus. And let me tell you, them weapons,
Yeah,
Mr.
man.
Gergany,
I
hey,
didn't know that was. I didn't know it was going to go down like that. No one ever. So I'm going to be
listen,
honest with you.
he,
You probably would have got two or three more if anybody else would have been there and told the truth about anything else. And I just held my peace a couple times because I knew that you would listen to me relatively as much as I
yeah,
needed you to, so we can get along and get through the day. Um, but I had no idea. It was probably 2 weeks in. And don't forget, when I met you, the day I met you, like you said, you were 8 or 9, insanely
yeah,
hyper. And the guy that was watching you was watching another kid too. So he had two kids. And the both of you were just
yeah,
jumping bed to bed. And they said, oh, you take,
yeah,
and they said, you take that one. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking
yeah.
about? What are you talking about?
Yeah, let me tell you, listen, them spankings, those he designed a special paddle just for me. And I remember this paddle. It had so the paddle was about this big with a handle like this. It had holes in it. So it catch the wind or whatever it did.
It wouldn't catch the wind. Yeah, it would be. It would get more.
Yeah, it was just boom. But the thing is, the spankings were so bad. Those weren't spankings; those were beatings because and it wasn't just one or two. There were times that I would have 30, 40. Like there were times that I would get spanked so bad I couldn't sit, I couldn't barely walk. Um, but he designed a special paddle. He put my name on it, and he put a Proverbs verse on that paddle. And he found like when after he made it, he showed it off like it was a treasure. Like, hey, this is what I'm using to abuse this child. Like, and that's what he did. The things that Mr. Gergen did to me were awful. I mean, obviously, you know the spanking situation. You know about the prayer room where there were times, I don't know, how many times did I go to the prayer room with you? Was there
None that I know of.
nothing, you know,
No,
but
no.
were you there?
I ended up in the prayer room for about a week.
Yeah. So you know how in the prayer rooms they lock you in, you can't come out, and if you do come out, there's an alarm system that alerts the front desk. Well, let me tell you, when I think the longest I spent in the prayer room was about 3 months. And if people don't understand, or I've never been to prison, that's what a prayer room's like. You're locked and you're not getting out. And if you do get out, an alarm's going to go off at the front desk. And these prayer rooms have cameras on the outside. So, but the thing is, as soon as you, that'll, now I know what it was. There's a little strip there. And as soon as that strip disconnected, alarms going off. And it got so bad for me that I ended up getting, I think it was, again, I was 9 years old, first time. They ended up stripping me naked, taking my clothes, handcuff, handcuffing me, duct taping me, and literally tying me to the bed because I kept running out of the prayer room. And somehow I was able to slip the cuffs and all that eventually. And I remember I couldn't get out of that room. And I was on the seventh floor. I believe it was room 713 or 707. It was one of those. It was 707, 709, and 713 were the prayer rooms on the seventh floor. I had to break through the wall to get into the next room to get out. And this is a 9 year old. First of all, what are you doing? Handcuffing, duct taping, and tying a 9 year old to a bed naked. And that was because I wouldn't memorize scripture. And their deal was if I didn't memorize a certain amount of scripture, I was going to stay in that prayer room and I was not going to get fed unless Mr. Gergandy or somebody he sent, which most of the time was him, because I will explain the relationship me and Mr. Gergandy had and coming up soon. It would be him coming. And honestly, if I didn't quote the scripture, I wasn't going to eat. So there's a lot of times I missed meals. I remember I went for, I think one time for about 5, 6 days without eating. And it's because I had no choice. what is a child going to do when they're locked in the room with no way out, and unless I break the window, which I ended up having to do it once. I had to break the window, crawl on the fire extinguisher. The fire escape, and my fire escape was broke, so I had to jump to the next fire escape. So then, and I made it, and ended up crawling down, and so it was Mr. Gurney that day. Do you remember that? I believe some of the nights that I was with you. Do you remember there were some nights that I would go spend the night at the Gurney's?
I don't believe that happened. Maybe it happened
I
once
don't
or
know.
twice.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe. But I'm
Yeah,
gonna say no because I don't remember.
All right. So with you, I think it only happened like once or twice. But but there was times I did I ever go on a vacation with you? I don't recall.
Not with me.
But
And I don't
okay.
think. And I'll be honest with you. The entire year I was there. Well, wait a minute. Near the end, did they switch us up near the end before I left?
Yeah, they switched us up.
So you may have gone on vacation with them.
Yeah. So let's just say this: the Gurney's took me in as their own son, practically.
Yeah, that's how I felt when I left. That's how I felt. Yeah.
There was a period of time where I lived in the penthouse with them. I consider that a penthouse. This is a hotel we're living in.
Yeah, it was a pretty big hotel. It was an 8-story hotel, so.
No, I thought it was 13.
Was it 13?
13th floor. It was 13th floor. The 13th floor is where...
I do remember everybody getting in the elevator and jumping on the elevator to see if we could break it.
Yes.
I do remember doing that.
So, yeah. So, because the Garganese lived on the 12th floor, and the 13th floor was where...
Yeah, they had like a banquet room. Yeah, it was like a banquet room.
Banquet rooms, yeah, and a bunch of parties there. So the Garganese took me in as their own son. But what amazes me is nobody seen the flag of why is a child living with... I was the only kid living with them.
Yeah.
Why? Like all the other kids that got...
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest with you, Alex. From my perspective, when I went, I was you. I was the troubled youth when I went the first time, and it wasn't a fantastic experience, but it was something I personally needed for my journey. I needed to threaten to beat that kid with the horn. I needed to threaten that young man, and then I needed to get right with God. I needed to slow down.
Oh, you threatened me. You were threatening me. Me and you would wrestle.
Yes, and you were tiny, so I didn't have much of a problem. But
no.
But the point was, if I wanted to go do something, we couldn't butt heads. You couldn't say I want to go left, and I couldn't say I want to go right, and then am I just going to follow you everywhere you go? I was like 18, 19 years old. There's no way. I was like, we're going where I want to go. If we're playing football, we're going to play football. And I got you to do it, and I thought we had fun. To be honest with you.
Oh, we had fun. Like, you know what?
I'm game for anything, and I've never really experienced being like a parent. You know what I mean? Not even a big brother.
Yeah.
My sister didn't need me for anything. I just tortured her. She was 4 years younger.
Yeah.
And my parents took pretty damn good care of us in a sense that I don't remember ever having to worry about her. You know, so. When I'm hanging out with you, this is a complete experiment for me, and it is my responsibility to do the best job I can. And they knew that I was slightly irresponsible. They knew that I was slightly.
Oh yeah, because we weren't learning the character quality. Yeah, there was time set aside for the schooling, for the character qualities, for Bible reading.
And we did very little. We did very
bare minimum.
Yeah,
bare minimum.
Well, my Christian journey was just beginning, too. It's not like I've been a Christian for 20 years.
Yeah.
I've been a real believing in the Bible Christian for maybe a year.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you know my journey of how I got to where I was.
I don't. I mean, you probably told me back probably then.
I don't think I did.
But maybe you didn't. I don't know. What is like, why did you go? What is your journey there?
Okay. My parents weren't Christian when I was growing up. They were Catholic. And when I say Catholic, they went to church on Christmas morning they'd stand in the back, they'd get the bread, and they'd leave early, and they'd give $1. And that was Christmas, and I think we did that on Easter. And of course, you'd go if someone died or if someone got married, and that was pretty much
Yeah.
it. We weren't real Catholics. My parents were real young when they had me, so my mom was 16. I think my dad was 18, and the Catholic Church wouldn't marry them, so they had to get married in a Protestant church just to have it actually count. So they weren't super religious, and because of my cerebral palsy and wanting to be a man and always being told,
Yeah.
oh, don't do that, you're gonna get hurt or whatever. I always had this need to prove myself.
Oh, and you did prove yourself. You never let your cerebral palsy get in the way. You at the end, you would find a way to do what you needed to do.
My whole life.
You're very stubborn, but it benefited you. And I mean, it's kind of the same thing with me. It's like me losing my eye. People people would try to say, "Oh, you can't do this, you can't do that," and you can't. Your depth perception's off. And I would disagree. I was a beast at sports: volleyball, football, softball, any sports we played.
Yeah.
For
And you were game. You were game, and you were in. And if it wasn't gonna work, we're gonna make it work.
Yeah. So so that's why I say some of my time there was some of my best and some of my worst. But one of my favorite things that I came up with is, my parents said, and I hate calling them my parents. They're not my parents. People who adopted me are not my parents. They are not my mom and dad. They don't deserve to be called mom and dad because they gave up on me. They never. I mean, I came to the States and I was only with them for less than a year before they sent me a little, actually, a year. Yeah, about a year before they sent me off. So, and the whole time I was there, we had to have permission. I had to have permission to call them, to talk to them. Calls were monitored. Um, I the times that I flew back and forth to visit them, it was very rare. They would never come visit me. I mean, they showed up maybe once or twice. So they don't deserve the title to be called mom and dad. And it's sad in my habit. I still say that. I don't know why, but they, and you'll understand why I say that when I tell you later on. But I am shocked that nobody realized that when I was living with the Gurganese, and then when I wouldn't live with the Gurganese, there were certain nights they would ask me to come up there. And I'll tell you why. So Mr. Gurgany ended up slowly, but he was molding me, I guess, into his little toy. Um, it started with just, I used to pee the bed a lot when I was there, on multiple, 2, 3 times a night sometimes, and that's because of my nightmares and the horde, and just dreams and just flashbacks. So obviously, when I peed the bed there, they had the thing. They got special bedding for me that would either shock me, so I would get up. They would have to change the bedding. So eventually, they would have me sleep naked, and he would come in there and inappropriately touch me, do things that they told me was okay. They didn't. They made me believe that him touching me, him bathing me, um, him me having to touch him and taking showers with him. They made it sound like that was okay. That's something that people do, and I knew it wasn't, because it didn't feel right. But it eventually got so bad to where it led to rape. So Mr. Gergany ended up eventually, and it's really messed up to say. And I've shared this. I tried to tell somebody when I was a kid, but they didn't believe me. Um, I tried it, and I tried to tell. It was an older brother of mine, and he adopted. He believed in a way I believe, but then my family was very heavily into this cult, This was not a religion. This was not a ministry. This was a cult that does nothing but tries to just lower you. They try to control you to the best that they can and make you think you are nothing unless you follow these rules and laws set by Bill Gothard himself, like the 48 character qualities. He would say, if you live by these 48 qualities, you would be a perfect man, perfect individual. And I believe people were falling for this because he set up a plan that sounded good of a way to raise your family and kids, but not many people realize the horror things that were happening at the facility that I was at, which was the Indianapolis Training Center. Um, so, and Mr. Gergany would not just it involve me. Sometimes he would bring other boys and girls my age and force us to do things. And he would love to take me to South Campus. That was another facility they have. And that's where he would have me do things with other young kids. And and if I didn't, I would get severely beat, and so would they. And the funny thing is some of these kids that were at South Campus, I don't know where they came from. They weren't at Indianapolis, so I don't know if they had kids that stayed at South Campus. But I believed like South Campus, I thought it was closed for a while. Like I thought it got shut down.
But I'm not sure how that ended. But before I left, they were bringing in Albanian orphans. And,
yeah.
The South Campus, I think Todd was there for a while. And he was working there for a while. And he's an outstanding gentleman. I know Todd personally very well.
Todd is awesome.
And he's a very kind man.
Yeah, amazing person.
He's got a big heart, and he's one of the reasons why I made it as far as I made it. Yeah, so, not everybody in there was soured. Do you know what I mean?
No, they weren't. But that's we were brainwashed. Everybody there was.
I never felt brainwashed myself. It was extreme measures, but I was an extreme person, man.
You're stubborn. That's why. I was going to mention about the Albanians. So go ahead.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
So South Campus. I believe there were Russian orphans there, and something happened that ended up sending the Russian orphans back before the Albanians.
I think that happened with I don't know. I don't want to say something.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I know there were children there. Yes. Now, were they from Russia or Albania? It could have. You're probably right.
It could have been both. It could have been both, actually. Yeah. I'm not sure, but definitely the goal was to have some orphans from Albania because I think there was a war going on at the time, or these were the kids of the aftermath of the war. So I think the goal was just to help a country that was war torn and messed up and things. I don't know. I don't know for sure.
Well, anyways, I would go there with Mr. Gergany, and he would always go there because he would just do minor work there, check on the property. They had animals there. He would feed the animals, but he would always take me with him. And when the times he took me with him, he ended up having me, and it's messed up to say me and another boy do things to each other. And
Alex, I'm so sorry, man. Alex, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I had no idea, bro.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Like, what person really wants to admit that?
No, I would never want to, man. And I can understand why it was so hard to say. And it's so weird. It didn't seem like they were that kind of people. He didn't look like that kind of guy.
And it doesn't. And you know what's funny?
I would have never. If you would have gave me $1,000 back then and said pick the guy out of the crowd because there's one in the, I would have lost $1,000 every time. I would have never picked him.
Yeah, because So I had a conversation with the Gerganys recently. I reached out to him, and so me and Judy Gergany, which is his wife, were talking, and I straight up said, I forgive you and your husband for the things that y'all did to me. I just wanted to let y'all know that. And I wanted to ask her, do you know the things that were happening? Because in my heart, I know she knew. Um, so I don't know if did I send you the messages last night? I,
Yes, you did, but I was
okay,
so busy, dude. I didn't get
yeah.
to everything, man.
So let me explain you those messages. Those messages were me saying, I forgive you. What he did was not punishment, it was abuse. And I kind of mentioned the sexual abuse and rape. She was having a conversation with me happily till then. And she closed it by saying, check this out. Supposedly I'm their son, their family, right? She said, Alex, unfortunately, the way she said it is, man, I don't really remember much of you at Indianapolis. I need to really sit back and think about it. That's kind of what she meant. So that's after I mentioned that. She kind of said, I don't remember much of you, really. I lived with y'all. I traveled with y'all. Like, I was considered y'all took me in as a son, and now you're saying that you don't remember. It's and I can't say nothing bad about her. I told her in a way she was my protected angel because she tried to go out of her way to stop some of this. I know she did. That's why I know she knew about it because she hated because she was present at all the spankings. That's one thing about Roger. He loved to have people present while you're getting spanked. Um, it would be whoever was working with me. There was a time I was spanked in the dining room in front of at dinner.
I'm so
Like,
sorry, Alex, man.
yeah, and
That did not happen under my watch.
no, you were not
I
there.
would have never let
Honestly,
that happen, bro.
when you were
I
there,
don't
I was
understand how
fine.
all those men that were there allowed that to happen.
Man,
That's a lot of people,
dude,
man. At the worst, the smallest amount of people, there was at least
yeah.
40 or 50
Listen,
people.
yeah.
No one stood up and
I
said
don't.
anything.
They didn't believe it,
Well,
but
you said they do.
I
He did
just
it right in front of them.
no the spanking. Yeah, the spanking. I mean, but that's just that's punishment. There, he's
No,
that
not in
he's
public.
that, but that's what he did. I mean, I did something that jeopardized everybody within the facility. I set the fire alarm off in the middle of the night.
No, well, hold on. That does not resolve that he hit you with a paddle in front of everybody.
Yeah, it was at dinner. He made me come up on stage and he gave me, I think, I don't remember how much it was, but like this, most of the time, which is also embarrassing when I got spanked, he would make me pull my pants down.
Yeah,
And like,
I believe he did enough so the skin got the whooping, not the clothes.
yeah. So he would, most of the time, all the time, literally, he made my mate. Not this time though. That's one thing he didn't. He didn't make me pull my pants down on this one. He just gave me a couple good whops, and that was in front. And nobody, everybody thought it was okay. Nobody came up to me and said that shouldn't have happened. Like,
No, they shouldn't have came to you. You were a child. They should
or
have came. They
even
should have stood up the moment it happened. I'm
yeah,
really
they
shocked that they
didn't.
just let that. That's not something for public. When's the last time you
No, but
heard of a father spanking his son in public? Like
it
making
doesn't
a
happen.
spectacle. Now, don't get me wrong. I've hit my
Yeah,
son in the back of the head. What the hell are you thinking? You know,
yeah,
but
but
it was a private moment, and
yeah.
and I sure as hell didn't make a spectacle out of it.
But one of my favorite quotes that I've come up with is, "So I was sent to Indianapolis to be saved from hell, right? So that I can go to heaven. But how is that possible? When Indianapolis was hell? That's what it was for me.
Yeah, for you.
So
But you
it,
were
it
one of the probably more unique scenarios on the planet. You got to rewind and look at I have to take you at your word, and I trust you and I
Yeah.
believe you. I have no reason not to. That being said, I would have never expected that from Mr. Gergen. I don't think anybody would have expected that
No,
from
no,
someone.
yeah, and that's why, like last night, I was really sitting there, like saying to myself, like, why even say it? Like,
Yeah.
but if after you left, if some of the people really, there's one person, and I wish I could name him, but I don't want to really put him out there like that, that witnessed a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to tell you the worst thing that happened to me. And it involved Roger Gergandy. It involved Bill Gothard. Margaret, she was our nurse there. Their daughter, um, oh, I'm having a brain fart of her name.
Was it Mary?
Mary. Okay. So their daughter,
And
Mary.
she was older than the son there, the one that went to Russia a couple
Yes.
times.
Yes. But she was considered one of the nurses.
Okay.
Mary and Margaret were the nurses there.
Okay.
And so it was Mary, Margaret, both of the Gergandys, Bill Gothard, and one other individual. I was about almost 10 years old, and I was in the prayer room. They strapped me down. And while Bill Gothard was praying, trying to cast demons out of me, they tried to circumcise me.
What?
And I still have scars to this day because I fought so hard that they end up cutting the wrong spots. Like I have a scar and they were saying because I was uncircumcised, I was evil.
Alex, are you
And
serious? Are you serious?
I'm dead. Yeah.
They did that in a
And
bedroom in the hotel.
in in a bedroom, and it was so bad that eventually I know I went
That's
to
not
the
something you do in a bedroom in a hotel.
no, it's not. It's not. But they had those two nurses, and they had people holding me down.
That can't be.
But
That's the craziest. Alex, this is
I,
blowing my mind, bro.
and you know what? I wish I could show you.
No, no,
I
no,
have
no,
the
no.
scar.
I'll take your
I'm
word
not
for
saying
it
I
here.
can't,
Yeah.
but I fought so hard that they end up cutting other places, and it left scars. Like I have, you could see scars, and
Well,
this way and that
do
way.
you know how they circumcise kids now?
I honestly don't know how it's done.
When they're little babies, they take the skin, they grab it, and they glue it.
Yeah, yeah.
They glue
Oh,
it,
I
and
know.
it just falls
Um,
off now. So they don't do any cutting anymore. It's a very very simple process now.
yeah.
I don't
Well,
know,
let me tell you, they
but that's not something.
they they literally, I don't know how do you say it. They cut the blood circulation off. They tied something down,
What?
and
What?
yeah,
I don't think that's part of the
and
process either.
well, no, they tied. They just say they try to tie like above my ball sack, kind of right there. They tied that
Yeah.
section.
But you lose circulation. That part of your body can be
Well,
dead.
that's what they did. And but the thing is, I fought so hard that when they tried to cut and the way I jerked, it
They kept
this,
chopping.
this oh it kept chopping, but it eventually ended up cutting my balls.
What the hell?
So I have a scar from the top all the way down to my balls, and multiple scars you see from them trying to circumcise me, and eventually they gave up because I fought so hard. I had so much strength in me that they couldn't. And the fact that Bill Gothard he was praying over me. He instructed them to do that.
Alex,
That
I had no idea this conversation was going to go down this crazy rabbit hole.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And
No, man.
I talked to your sister, and I asked her, should I really like say this? Because this one person knows, and I've asked him to, if it ever came to it, would he say that he witnessed it? And his answer was, and this was years ago that I asked him, he said, Alex, these people are so powerful. I don't know if I would be willing to come out and say that. He goes, I would tell him I witnessed the abuse the spankings, the beatings. He was kind of like you. When he would act like he was on their side, but when it came down, he would sneak me food.
See,
He would make sure
I
I
felt
ate.
like I was on their side. I felt like we were all on the same side when I was there. Now, granted, like I said, there was a couple times where I made sure there wasn't that extra spanking because I didn't see that
Yeah,
as being necessary. But I didn't feel like they were the enemy at all while I was there.
yeah. Listen, Regan, the abuse I went through at Indianapolis, there I there was a time I tried killing myself as a child
Yeah.
in the prayer room, and I mean, no child should be beaten to the point where they can't sit or walk and have custom made, even handcuffed and shackled.
Yeah. Now you were
And
not the only one. I was not the only one. There was a couple other guys that were pretty aggressive like me that ended up getting cuffed too. I don't know if you
yeah,
remember them, but I do clearly
I
remember.
mean, no, I remember that but it got so bad with me that they ended up having to. There were times they ended up giving me a shot in the butt that would knock me out.
Wow. Yeah, and that's something you shouldn't do without a doctor. I don't think that's
No,
a wise
well,
choice.
their doctors marry, and
Yeah, but those aren't doctors.
well, they were saying they are just like so. One of the
I'm pretty
incidents
sure
when the
they were
cops got,
RNs, dude. I think they were RNs.
yeah, if that,
Well,
but
here's the
if that,
deal, man. You shouldn't have access to narcotics as an RN.
yeah.
Not to administer them on your own will in any
Well,
state.
listen, they had medication in that one room that people shouldn't have, like anesthesia, kind of
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Now, the way it works
They,
with any kind of narcotic at all that's administered by a nurse,
yeah,
they normally have to be written off by another nurse, and a doctor has to write off on it.
yeah.
That's
Well,
not something, even if it's a routine thing that I give you every day because you're elderly and you're dying or whatever. There's still multiple layers of authority, and you don't. You got to get a written order from a doctor. I did this for a
Well,
living for a little while.
yeah. Oh, no, I
This
know
is not
that.
random.
I know.
You don't just don't randomly do it as you please.
No, and like I'll tell you exactly where that room was. Remember the hallway in the kitchen and before the
Okay.
front desk where
Well,
they had
let
the
me
snack machine?
remind you what I remember because that
Yeah,
we'll start from there because I didn't stay as long as you did. You basically lived there for like
I lived there.
a
I
third
was
of your
there
life
five,
or
six
something.
years.
Yeah, so that's like a
Yeah,
third
I
of
was
your
there five,
life,
6 years.
and probably one of the more impressionable years too. So if I remember, you'd walk in the front door and there was the big lobby and the front desk, and then there were
Yeah,
right next to it was the two elevators on the left.
yeah. But you remember?
If you kept on
No,
going left, there was
before that.
okay. If you kept going left, there was a long corridor, and one of the first doors was that black man that knew every word of the Bible,
Oh yes,
Mister. Oh, I
he had
don't.
a church. I would go
Yeah,
to
yeah.
his
I went to
church,
his church, and he
but
was probably one of the smartest men I ever met
oh,
in my life.
he was, and
He was
I
like
used to
90. He
go in
was like
there.
95 years old. He was like 7 feet tall, and he just
Yeah, he
dangly
was.
arms and crazy
Yeah.
tall, and he was a wild dude. But he memorized the entire Bible.
Listen,
That you kept on,
and
if
I
you
used.
now if you kept on going, on the right was the dining room, and
Yeah.
and on the left was the Gurganese office.
Yes. Okay. So between the elevator and the front desk, there's that door.
Yeah, there was an office.
That,
That was the people that were in charge. There was a
no,
family that was in charge before the
no.
Gurganese, and I think they had an
There's
office there.
remember where they had the vending machine in the area where we would go to the microwave and cook the soups down there.
No, they didn't have that when I was
Okay.
there.
Uh,
There
all
was a
right. So
phone booth. There was a phone booth, and there
all
was a
right.
computer room.
Remember where they had the sound equipment, where that room where they played the music in the morning.
Yeah. Okay.
There's that room back there. That's where they kept the medicine.
No shit. Okay.
Yeah, and it was under like a lot under. It was guarded. You couldn't just go in there and grab anything you wanted. It was behind multiple 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 doors, Plus, it was behind shelves that had locks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but they
Well,
had
if it knocked you
medication
out,
then.
if it knocked you out, that was real narcotics. That's not.
Oh no,
That's not
they
Tylenol.
had
Yeah.
no, they had medication that when as soon as that shot hit my butt, I was asleep 2 3 days.
2 or 3 days? Oh, come on,
Yeah,
Alex. Two or
I
three
was.
days?
Yeah, I
That's
was
dangerous. I'm going to be honest with
out.
you. I think you're too young. I don't know. 2 or 3 days is a long time, dude.
No, it was no, like it
But
was.
don't forget, this is a 10-year-old memory. You know, I mean, a 10-year
Yeah,
old's memory. So sometimes, like the
yeah. I
front
might be
desk,
over. It was
when the front desk looks so dauntingly high, because from your perspective at 10, it's like 20 feet high, but in reality, it's only
yeah.
4. Do you know what I'm? So
No, all right.
I
So
would take
it was more than 24 hours. It would knock me out for a day at least.
really a whole
But it
day.
seemed.
Well, here's the deal:
But
if you
I'm
give
saying
too much
when I say knock me
narcotics,
out, like I'm saying when I say knock me out, like I would go to sleep. Yeah, and I would wake up,
take a
and I
piss
would
and
be
go
just
back to
so.
bed. Yeah.
I would be so out of it,
Well, that's
like super
dangerous.
drowsy.
Real dangerous. So you're
Yeah,
taking a young man weighing 50, 60 pounds, because you were a tiny dude when you were little.
I was a
Um,
tiny kid.
Now you were a scrapper, because I had to fight you when I fight you.
Yeah.
It was no joke. So at 19 years old, it was. I had to worry about my face. I had to worry about. Yeah, you. It was no. And obviously I didn't want to hurt you, so I was.
I enjoyed it. That's one thing. I enjoyed wrestling.
But
I tried to start
you
fights,
do
but
that
now
with a young man that's small, that doesn't weigh that much, and you could kill him by accident. They should have never done that. Number one,
no. But that
I'm
only
flabbergasted. They sure as shit didn't have the balls to do that in front of me,
no,
and
no, and a lot.
none of that happened. And I'll be honest with you, he made it seem extremely normal to spank you, and I'm going to go on a limb and I'm going to be as honest as I can. I did not feel like what he did was abnormal at the time.
Yeah,
Under the context of this entire conversation, it gets a little less. But they disciplined me. They never spanked me. But I had parents that cared about me, so they didn't have the luxury of intimidating a little boy into capitulating, and they knew they had to answer to somebody at the end of the day. And if I told my parents, there would be hell to pay.
and that's the thing is I wasn't allowed to talk to my parents.
Well, your parents. Okay.
I don't think they.
Here's my take on your adopted father. I believe that they had a good, cushy, easy life. They
Oh,
believed in God. They believed in God. I'm not doubting they believed in God, but I believe what happened was they were comfortable enough where they said, "Oh, we would love to bless some young man or some young girl. Let's go adopt people." So, and it makes you look good and you feel good, and it's all that stuff. And I'm not belittling anybody that does that, because the reality is we're all human. None of us are perfect, right? So being able to say, "Look at what I did," I understand people do that, and it's a part of the motivation of why people do it. And sometimes it's just love, and I just want to help a kid, and I feel bad. It's like adopting a puppy kind of thing. I understand. Once they got you, I don't think they realized that money wasn't going to fix it. Do you
Yeah,
understand what I'm saying? So
yeah.
if you spent the last 40 years and money fixed everything, and all of a sudden you come around and you're a monkey wrench, you fucked up my engine, man. You
But
messed up everything, because money don't fix it, because you had a lot of trauma that needed to be dealt with that probably would have taken 10 years of real hardcore love and no money involved. The less
like
money,
not.
the better. And I don't think they were accustomed to living that kind of. You got to give them a little bit of credit where credit's due. I
No,
would
they.
assume I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They had no idea, because think about this: it's the '90s, it's Russia. The
Yeah,
internet just started being invented. The Google, I don't even think Google exists yet, right? So the
yeah.
internet's pretty new, and a company comes along and says, "I got a bunch of kids. We're an orphanage. Who's gonna how you gonna know? If they
And
got a
I agree.
brochure, and they got kids on hand. Who's
Oh
gonna
yeah,
know?"
I agree with you. I don't believe they knew because they adopted after me. They adopted three more kids.
Now here's the deal. Now 2 months later, they find out that's possible. And once I found out that I did something wrong and I'm already knee deep, I'm gonna try to fix it with money.
Yeah,
Even if I was poor, I'd try to do that because I'm already knee deep. I already got the kid. I already put the effort in. I already did what I thought was right. There's no way I'm going back now, and putting you back in the system doesn't sound like the right choice. I feel guilty putting you back in the system. So
Yeah.
I'm going to give them the benefit of doubt that maybe they found out a little bit later. And
Oh
'cause
no,
I'm
they did.
sure for a fact, eventually there had to be flags where like, damn, this is not the way it's
No,
supposed to be.
listen, I'll tell you. They did find out later because I had to go back to Russia.
Really? So they took the time to take you back to Russia.
Yes.
So
So
they cared. They cared enough to care.
yeah, they did, but they still what they did later on is unforgivable. So they did take me back to Russia, and I did go in front. I remember going in front of the judge,
No shit.
and the judge asked me, "Do you want to go back with them, or do you want to stay?" Oh man, I wish I would have stayed.
Well, I don't know, Alex. Hold on, though. Russia's not a. That's not.
Yeah,
That's a
honestly,
wild jungle, man. That's a wild jungle out there, especially in
I don't
Moscow.
know. I don't know anything.
You would have been stuck in Moscow, bro.
No, but that's me just saying like then. I mean, it's I don't know how to explain it. I wish I would have said I would have stayed because maybe my life would have completely turned out different. But it's just that's past.
Yeah.
But they you know what, they had the best intentions to help me, but the way they went about it, and because I was such a I had issues, I have issues, and I still have issues.
Yeah.
Because this is the first time I'm actually opening up, because I've tried to open up to doctors, to psychiatrists, to counselors, and they're just like, boom, like, yo, how do we help you? And
Yeah. Well,
and
I have learned a few things in my life. I've learned that a lot of times when there's a lot of trauma, the person that received the trauma will blame everybody that traumatized them on what they do to themselves. And then they will blame themselves for everything that person did to them. So if someone
and
hurt you, you'll blame yourself for getting hurt. And then if you
yeah,
act out for being upset, you'll blame them for your acting out.
and that's what I did. And you're right
Yes,
about
that's a human condition that almost everybody does, and there's a solution to that. You can't lie to me until you lie to yourself.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You got to believe the lie that you're going to tell me, or at least a portion of it. And what happens is you get this small lie. It's a small lie. And it wasn't like you wanted to make it, but you said it's my fault they abused me. It's my fault, and that's a lie. Once you do that, the other one comes. They're like parallel tracks, and they follow each other. And I'm telling you, man, from what I've seen, and it's a very common thing with the young ladies that get abused. They'll blame themselves for the abuse, and then they'll go run amok and go hook up with a bunch of people, and then blame that person that abused them on doing that. You know what I mean? And
Well,
it doesn't solve any of the problems.
if you think about the Bill Gotham Ministries, what they teach you is if you get raped or something like that, it's your fault. You should have been so flirty. You shouldn't have been wearing prerogative clothes. You shouldn't have. And they made me believe it was okay.
Yeah. No, it's not okay. It's not okay, and it shouldn't have happened to you, and it was not your fault. Now, that being said, if you want to go down the road of like a woman being a little bit lewd, I would compare that to if I had $60,000 and 4 bundles of cash in my hand, and I walked through the worst ghetto in South L.A. Would you blame me for getting killed, or would you blame the guy that killed me? Do you understand what I'm saying? What I'm saying is I wouldn't wear a thong where a bunch of dudes that I know are going to have the capacity to rape me on a day when no one's going to be there to protect me. It would be a bad idea. No, I'm not. No. On that, I'm not saying it's a woman's fault that she gets raped. That's not my point. I'm just saying there is a fine line where you do have to take some responsibility for going too far. But you are 10 years old or 9, 12, whatever it was. You are not responsible for any of your actions.
They were using sex as a punishment.
That's the bizarrest thing I've ever heard.
But it's true. Like they were saying, this is happening to you because you're getting punished by God. And it's like, what? Listen, it got so bad. The reason I got kicked out of Indianapolis is because somebody finally ran away and said something.
Yeah, tell that
And
story. Tell that story because you gave me a snippet of that, and that was the first time I heard it.
so there was, I don't know, so I'm not going to mention this girl by name, but it starts with a T because I don't know if it's technically illegal for me to say her name.
Yeah, I wouldn't say her name. I'm gonna bleep it out
So
if you do.
there was another female there, about my age, and we liked each other. I mean, we used to pass notes back and forth. So we got caught, and it eventually got so bad, and it's just like, and I hate telling this story because it's one of those stories that just sounds unbelievable, but it happened. But this one can be proven because she ran away and the cops didn't get involved. But what sucks is the Kavanaughs have cops in their family, and the cops that came were the Kavanaughs. But they did have news people sneak into the hotel wearing body cameras trying to find me and this girl. This girl ran away. She was sent there by the courts, and she raised the flag and said, "Listen, they're making me." She straight up says Alex, but if you read the news article, it says the Russian orphan. I was the only Russian orphan in Indianapolis, Indiana, so there is a news article about this online. And what it says is she straight up said they're making me and this kid have it. So we didn't have like physical sex. It was all oral kind of stuff. But the girl ended up getting raped by an individual at Indianapolis that was a superior. And that happened in front of me because this happened after they made us sexually act on each other. And that's when the news did come involved. The news came and investigated. Somehow they found out. I don't know what happened to the girl, but they sent me into hiding. And when I say they sent me into hiding, they sent me to a secluded log cabin that was legitimately I couldn't run away from. And I was good at running away. If I wanted to run away and I needed to get somewhere, I would find a way. And that's one thing in life I was always good at. And later on, it was running away from places and getting away from it. But there was no running away from me. They hid me there until they could find out what they could do with me. So that's how I got kicked out of Indianapolis, is because the news got involved. They were looking for me, and they needed somehow to hush up that this girl straight said, "I'm getting raped. I got raped." They made Alex witnessed it, and Alex and me were forced to perform on each other as children.
Absolutely wild, man.
But one of the craziest things is, do you remember how Bill Gothard supposedly goes on 30 days of fasting and prayer?
Yeah.
One of those occasions I went with him. And it wasn't fasting and prayer. It was more of him. And there's witnesses to this one too, because he always had people with him that would drive him, secretaries. So we actually went to somewhere in New Hampshire to a cabin, and it was a location that had multiple cabins because the staff would stay there. He had his own private cabin, but I stayed in that cabin. And there was no fasting and prayer. Him was just, he did a lot of studying and reading and made it seem like he was fasting and prayer. Bill Gothard never physically raped me, but he did sexually abuse me. It was just inappropriate touching on both ends, showering, kind of oral stuff, but he never, yeah, I guess that's rape.
Yeah, that's rape, bro. That's rape. And you didn't deserve that. And again, that doesn't make any sense to me. But unfortunately, I think I've heard stories of young ladies saying the same thing with Mr. Gothard.
Yeah, and you know what sucks is I feel for them, and they have the movement for women, Me Too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I sympathize for them, and I pray these girls get the help that they need. But it's sad to say, like, from a men's point of view, me too. Like,
Yeah.
and it's
Alex,
reading their story kind of set in my mind of I want to share what happened, because there's so many people out there I know something happened to, and they're just quiet about it. I mean, I stayed quiet about it for so many years, and I have dreams about this paranoia. I there I, there is not one night that I get a peaceful night of sleep, because every night, even at home now, every night, and my roommate notices this, is and my roommate's legit one of my best friends, and he's like, dude, I hear you get up, and I get up and I go stand at the window. I peek out the little curtain because I swear somebody's coming, and nobody's coming. I live in a safe place. Nobody's coming down my road, but is that fear of it's? I'm scared that I don't know why. I feel like Bill or Roger it's that mind stuck in my head that they're gonna come one of these nights, like, and it's happened since I was a kid. It happens every night. And I will peek out that window and stand there,
yeah.
and just no reason. And I've tried to get help. I've tried to ask, like, why do I do it? And like,
Well,
and, you know, and
I'm sure it was a habit when you were a child because you were
what?
afraid. You're like, I don't want this to happen again, and you knew you couldn't go anywhere, so you were stuck there. So it was going to happen again, and
Yeah, because
it becomes a habit to worry about it.
my room was right next to Rogers and his wife, and he would sneak in at night, and I would be under my blanket, acting like I'm sleeping, peeking with my one eye, because I got one eye, and I would just be laying there peeking, acting like I'm asleep, hoping he would think I'm asleep. But it didn't work. I mean, the things that happened to me in Indianapolis have
They're devastating.
affected.
Those are going to affect you for the rest of your life, and I understand that.
Yeah, it's just beyond, and even after Indianapolis, I had a rough life. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was just going to say, man.
so I left Indianapolis at the age of 13. Um, I was sent back home, and automatically they sent me to another school in Montana, another school associated with the Bill Goffman ministry. Now, it wasn't one of his facilities, but these were people who used the ACE program, used his curriculums.
Yeah, the character qualities and the homeschooling stuff, all that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, and they had a strong belief in him, or they donated to him. They did this, and they had 6 boys. And let me tell you about this. I don't know the name of the school. I don't know the name of these people. This was so traumatizing there that my mind shut it down. But it got so bad that I ended up running away. So eventually, because I have one eye, my eye gets infected sometimes. And it got infected. And when I say this place was in the middle of nowhere, even if I stole the little dirt bike they allowed us to ride, the nearest house or anything was at least a 30-minute ride. So they had to take me to the doctor. And this place, so that they used animals. They taught you how to break horses, how to take care of animals, but it was only a husband and wife and 6 boys. All of us were getting molested. All of us were sexually abused. I ran away, and it took me to a doctor. After the doctor, we went to Walmart to get one of my prescriptions. I asked the lady if I could use the bathroom, and she had to use the bathroom. So when she went to the bathroom, I ran. And the thing is I'm glad that I had all the markings I had on me. my body, you couldn't see nothing on my face, but my body, you could see my ribs, my like privates, everything. It was bruises. I still had blood stains in my underwear. Um, and I ran away, and somehow I got to a police station. Um, they shut that place down so quick. And this was in Montana, but it was kind of on the line of Wyoming. And that's why I've had a hatred towards God, but it's weird because I don't hate him, because every time in time of need I go to him.
Yeah, yeah. And
And
don't
I
and don't ever give up, man. Don't ever give up on yourself, and don't ever give up on God. It's kind of
yeah,
for me personally, the way I look at it is, if I curse the air or the rain or the dirt, or if I curse the sun, and I'm a farmer, that's all I got.
yeah,
I can't replace those things. I can't replace the rain. I can't replace the sun. I can't replace the dirt. So
yeah.
you got to work with what you got, and I feel like I need to go to him when things are at its worst. So
Oh,
uh,
I
so
listen.
I try not to be bitter towards him. It's easy to do. Existence is not easy, but we were built for a purpose.
Well, and that's what, that's the only thing that's kept me kind of. I don't, I don't know how to say this. I'm just going to say it and just say it. I am, and you kind of know this because you actually kind of saved me one night. I'm content and believe that, oh man, this is going to sound so wrong, but I'm okay with knowing that I believe that one day I'm going to take my life. And it's a battle I struggle every day with. I feel like I wake up every day, and I tell my friends this, and I tell people that meet me, and I say, listen, please keep an eye on me, because I'm okay with knowing that I found a way out that isn't painful, isn't hurtful. And I've struggled with substance abuse issues in my life. And there was a period where I've overdosed one time in my life, and sad thing was, I overdosed in prison, and that overdose gave me a way out. I remember there was no pain, there was no nothing, and I'm at that point in my life right now. Is, you know what? Yes, I do struggle with it still. I do find I try to find a reason to. I mean, it's to live, and luckily I find reasons because God's intervened in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
But it's just, I'm I just say to him, like, you know what? I've gone through so much, and I have such a journey. Like, you haven't even heard some of what happened after I ran away. Like, I have so much more story to tell, that there's a reason I'm alive, and I shouldn't be. Like, there's things that happened to me in my life where that I shouldn't have lived through. I should be paralyzed. But I'm just grateful that now, recently, that I'm actually finding hope, and that hopes in sharing my story in hopes of helping people.
Yeah.
Like, I've always wanted to be a youth leader. I've always wanted to be a motivational speaker. I've always wanted to use my story to benefit others,
Do you see what I'm
because
saying? Do you see what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about, Alex. Everybody is here for a purpose.
and
The Wright brothers built the airplane, and I
yeah,
believe if they would have been lazy and they didn't build it, the world would have been a smaller place, and we would have had to wait for somebody else to do their purpose, and we would have still got the airplane. And if you have a purpose, it is your duty to manifest that reality. That the reason why you're here needs to come forward, or you're going to squander your life, and someone else will have to do it after,
yeah,
and
and
somebody will suffer because of it. We're all here. We're all way more connected than we realize.
yeah, and I believe my purpose is this right now. I believe this story
It's a wild story. This is the wild. We haven't even gotten to prison yet.
I haven't. You haven't. And you know what? So
we're 2 hours in, and I'm not going to be able to. I'm not going to be able to do this for 3 hours, Alex.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you a quick version of it. At age 13, 14, I was signed over to the state, so meaning my parents signed me over to custody of Child Protective Services. I immediately ran away from them. So from the age of 14, 15, I've been on my own. And at about 18 years old, I started drug trafficking. Started selling drugs. I met some people. And I got convicted. I got caught. I got sentenced to prison. And I did approximately about 10 years. And prison's no fun. I mean,
no, man. You said you were doing drugs in prison. That's a whole different. That's a whole different sentence in prison, man.
I caught a drug habit in prison because when I sold drugs and I trafficked drugs, I wasn't doing them.
Yeah.
I smoked a little bit of bud, and
Yeah.
But I'm talking about heroin, fentanyl, crack. I mean, I've never shut up. I've always sniffed. And I'm petrified. One thing I've never done is smoke a cigarette. I have never smoked a cigarette in my life, and I never will. And I made a promise. It was my adopted grandfather, Pop Pop. I made a promise to him. It was one of the first tattoos I got for him. He passed away. I told him I'll never smoke a cigarette, and I still never have. But I've done every drug, and I became a successful drug dealer. I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank. Cars, there was a period of time where in 6 months I spent $350,000. And this was while I was out. So I got sentenced to 4-4 a day with 4 years probation. I got out. I lasted 6 months. During that 6 months, I spent that amount of money. Violated, went back to 4-4 in a day. In 4-4 in a day, you're practically doing 4, so that's 8 years. And then the trial waiting was about 2 years. They had my bail so high, I eventually was able to post bail. But prison was tough, and Indianapolis was prison, but yeah. So I look like I've been in prison since a child. So, and recently I've only been out of prison a couple months. And that's when I reached out to you. The night you reached out to me and saved my life that night. I was in a hotel room planning on taking my life because of a heartbreak.
Yeah.
And somehow, by the grace of God, you reached out.
Yeah. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did, man.
You remember, I couldn't even talk.
No, you were crying like a baby. And I'll be honest with you, I've been wanting to cry this entire time, man.
Yeah.
I wish I was on the other side of the screen and giving you a hug, bro.
Oh, trust me. I mean, I'm here pinching myself because I don't want to cry. But I'm here shaking my legs because this is, there's so much to the story, and I'm going to be able to share it one day.
Yes. But do you believe, you got to believe this, do you believe that you made it through all this, survived all this for nothing?
No, I believe I survived this so I could use this.
Then you do not have permission to kill yourself.
Oh, I am not.
Do you understand me? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
you have not manifested what you are supposed to manifest yet. You have not done, and you're not allowed to get resentful either.
No.
Because if you do go get resentful, you can go down a rabbit hole that's way worse than the one that was created for you. You can bring a little hell to yourself. And I love you, Alex, and I don't want to ever see that.
No, and I don't want to either. And it's like, you know what I'm dealing through right now. It's like now I don't have an identity. I don't have an ID. I don't have.
And you know what? I want to fix that. I want everybody that's listening to this podcast tonight to be able to have the opportunity to help Alex. I need you to tell everybody in like 5 minutes what you need to go through to get your Social Security card, to a birth certificate, to a citizenship, to a driver's license, to all the things that you're going to need to do. Not rectify any of the wrongs that happened to you, because I know that's a whole other lawsuit in and of itself. But for you to be able to get a bank account and cash your check so you can work like a regular man at any job you please anywhere in the country. What is it going to take for you to do all that stuff?
So I tried recently, and they said I need to prove that I was adopted. I need proof of citizenship. I need a birth certificate. I need documents. And unfortunately, I've tried to get the documents, and the little bit of money I had, I spent on that, which it wasn't much, but the documents that I need are a lot. Some of the documents are up to a couple $1,000s. Some of them are 500. The cheapest one is $555, and it's just, I've been fortunate to have people give me a job and somebody that cashes my checks, but I'm not able to get health insurance. I'm not able to get an ID. I'm not able to get a driver's license like I'm supposed to have because of the new law that came in effect that you have to have a birth certificate and proof of citizenship. And unfortunately, my adopted parents threw all that away. And back when I was adopted, there was no paper trail or computers. Everything was done papers. And without paying for it, I can't get it. So, and it's just, the stuff I did pay for, they weren't able to find. So I did pay to get my birth certificate out of Texas Vital Statistics Department. They're saying, listen, we can't find it. And what we do, there is something of you, but it's sealed. You need to get an attorney to get it unsealed. Basically, I believe it's actually your sister who's going out of her way to help me start a GoFundMe to see if I could raise funds.
Yeah. Well, I was a little concerned that we wouldn't be able to link the GoFundMe page to something you can get a hold of because you don't have a bank account. So I'm like, man, I got my hands full with my life. I got my hands full with this part-time job. I got my hands full with all kinds of things. For me to go try to figure out how the hell to link a GoFundMe page to who knows what. I don't know if you can Venmo or whatever it is. I don't know. I just don't know. And I'm like, man, I could watch a YouTube video, but that could be. So I was like, I don't want to take on that challenge right now. That's a lot for me to do.
And it's not easy. And your sister's gone way and beyond.
Yes, she's actually pretty good. She's pretty good at that stuff. Not saying she's going to be able to do it, but she'll be able to link it to something. There's got to be something we can link it to.
And then even if that doesn't work, at least I do have a Cash App that does work.
Okay. Well, then they should be able to link it to the Cash App.
I'm hoping. Honestly,
most people don't realize this, but Cash App, Venmo, and like 5 other of those apps, they're all owned by the same company.
Yeah. So
if you got one, you can get them all working.
Yeah, and I guess I don't ask for things, and you know what? It's that time in my life that I don't have a choice but to ask for help.
Well, here's the deal. I'm a firm believer in being able to overcome your circumstance, but brotherly love is also a valuable tool, and it is our duty to help those that we can help.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying your hardest. So I want everybody to take serious consideration. I'm going to put links down in this episode on ways to find Alex, ways to find his GoFundMe page, and we're going to try to at least get you to the point where you could pursue your dreams, you could go chase your passions with a valid birth certificate and be able to go to any state you want to, or even leave the country.
Or just have an ID.
Yeah, just have an ID, right? Isn't that crazy? Because you can't even vote then. Without an ID, you can't vote.
Well, I can't vote because I think I'm a felon anyways.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the felon. So you can't own a gun either, man. You can't own a gun. You can't vote.
Even though I know we only have a couple seconds, but I just want to bring one more point. You know, a lot of this wouldn't be possible if for one of my best friends who's gone out of his way. And I met him through prison, and his best friend was in prison, and he got out. They stayed in contact, and they made a promise to me that when you get out, we will make sure you have a roof over your head. We will make sure you have you're set up, and they've gone out of their way. And I've sent you a song. Oh.
That's okay. Don't worry about it. Go ahead.
So I sent you a song that one of my friends wrote
On that
All
note, we
right.
got 1 minute. If you wanna tell anybody anything right now, is the time to say it, man. I want to tell you personally, I love you, Alex, and I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, I love you too. And you know what? I just want people to know, you know what? I'm not going to give up because I know I have a reason. And for those who have struggled and don't want to say something, speak up because your story could save someone's life. And that's what I hope I do because that's what makes me happy, helping other people. And it's, it may be hard, but you can do it.
And see who's got the heart. And I'll be honest with you, if it catches it all, and here's the thing, Alex, I don't know. Not everybody goes viral. So I don't know what does and what doesn't. And
You
long
know what?
form
If it
content is
saves,
hard.
yeah, if it reaches one person and helps one
Then
person,
it was worth it.
I'm
Now,
not.
do you mind if I do little YouTube snippets for reels and stuff so that I can
No,
get the message out there?
no, you do whatever you want, and you know what? You do whatever you have. You have permission to do anything you want with this,
Okay.
because I want this heard. I want this.
Okay.
If I don't benefit from it, I'm fine.
Okay.
But if someone else does,
Yeah.
that's what makes me. That will make me happy.
That's amazing, man.
That would,
You got a big
because you
heart,
know
brother. You got a big heart, man.
I do, and
And you've had that big heart since you were 5 years old. The first
I
chance you had to buy yourself something, you bought everybody else something.
I bought
And I know
everybody.
this. I know this because it happens to me in my life. When people are hurting, they want other people to feel good.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes I'm the same exact way.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
So, and if even if the GoFundMe thing doesn't go well, you can link the Cash App because that is set up.
Yeah.
That does work.
And we'll figure something out if we can do it. Because I would like to have you get some proper identification.
Yeah,
Because
my last,
every man should be able to take care of himself to a certain degree.
yeah.
And you can't do
You
it
want
without that stuff. You can't do it.
you want to see the last ID I had?
Yeah, show everybody.
So this is the last driver's license I had. That is from 2014, and that's it.
Alex,
And
you look like Jason Bourne.
I look completely. I have hair.
Yeah.
It's wow. Like now, I wish I had hair.
Yeah. You look like a baby, man. You look like you're 17 in that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I still look. Yeah. Now I look like an old man.
Hey, I probably got 15 years on you, man.
I'm jealous. I'm jealous of your beard. I wish my beard grew white. But listen, thank you for taking your time. Thank you for Thank you for being my best friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a brother. This is a bonding that will last a lifetime.
I know it will. And you've been on my mind my entire life.
Oh, trust me, the same thing with you. So it's.
I think that's one of the reasons my sister was so quick to reach out to you.
Yeah, but your sister knew the bond we had, and I'm sure you probably shared with her things.
Oh, of course. I'm sure I told her almost everything between what happened with us. Because for me, what we experienced was almost nothing but fun.
Oh, it was a blast.
I know we had way more fun than anybody else around us because everybody else around us was trying so hard to be goody two shoes and all that, and I didn't really have time for that.
Well, we never followed curfew. We were in our rooms playing and drink Mountain Dew. Code Red.
I love it. Alex, I appreciate you, man. I gotta go.
Alrighty, bud.
All right. I'll let you know when I'm almost done, and then I'll let you know when everything's up.
Weather is good, sun is shining, don't get my vibe.